What's up, guys? It's Mattoon from America's Dodge Balls, and welcome to Last Night in the NBA Today. So, after the most dramatic offseason I've certainly seen in my lifetime, likely the craziest in NBA history, the NBA season finally began last night. We were treated to two fantastic games of basketball, and most importantly, they challenged the views many of us had of the NBA as a whole going forward. And I'll get into that a little bit later. I really hate to do this, but I truly cannot talk about last night without first talking about what happened to Celtics' new forward, Gordon Hayward. Halfway through the first quarter, Hayward came down extremely awkwardly after going up for a failed alley-oop pass from Kyrie Irving. When he came down, you could immediately see a complete displacement of which direction his ankle should be facing and which direction it was actually facing. Ultimately, Hayward was diagnosed with a fractured ankle and a fractured tibia, and the timetable for his recovery is still unknown. Dwayne Wade's face really says it all, but if you're curious to see the play, here it is.
They're going up. Oh my goodness. Hayward came down so hard. Okay, Hayward broke his leg. Hayward has broken his leg. Hayward has broken his leg.
Moving on from Hayward's horrific injury, I want to talk about how parity isn't as non-existent as we thought it was in the league. Despite the NBA doing a fantastic job growing the popularity of the league, one huge complaint most fans have about the NBA is the lack of competitiveness, with the Cavs-Warriors finals seeming inevitable for the past few years, including this one. Opening night showed us just the opposite. Parity in the NBA is very real, and there may not be as big a gap between the best and the next best as we originally thought. The Celtics were up first as they rallied back from a double-digit deficit after losing Gordon Hayward to have a shot to win the game at the buzzer. In a display of symbolism and extreme irony, Kyrie Irving ended up missing the possible game-winning shot over his former teammate LeBron James. With how much shit people are talking about Kyrie's ego and how he's not ready to be the man, could you imagine if he does hit this shot over LeBron James to grab a W over his former team? That would be insane. I mean, that's just like a fairy tale right there, and they were so close, but yet so far. Anyways, moving on from teams almost beating one of the quote-unquote inevitable championship teams, in the West, somebody actually did beat one of those teams. The Houston Rockets did an impressive job keeping up with the Golden State Warriors, and ultimately came out with a slim 1-point victory. The oft-talked about one-ball, two-point guard issue in Houston was an absolute non-factor, as both James Harden and Chris Paul finished with double-digit assists. Paul's role in the scoring department was diminished as he only finished with 4 points on 2 of 9 shooting, but I can guarantee he's fine with accepting a smaller scoring role if that means the team wins. Perhaps one of the most interesting things we learned about last night is just how deep this Rockets team is, especially in comparison to the Warriors. CP3 was obviously the biggest addition to the Rockets, but his plus-minus last night of -13 indicates he clearly didn't make as big an impact on the floor as the 1-point victory indicated. Instead, it was PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon who truly carried the Rockets to this victory with their amazing production off the bench. The Warriors, on the other hand, saw all of its starters post a positive plus-minus, with the bench posting all negatives. It's only the first game of the season, but for a team with new moving parts to defeat the defending NBA champs on their home floor is significant, and I think that's a true sign parity still exists in the league. In the end, the Warriors came extremely close to winning it, but Kevin Durant's shot was just slightly late, as you can see here. In other more minor news, Nick Young popped off for 20 points in the first half on 7 of 8 shooting, showing just how beneficial the Warriors system can be for a great shooter. Young only took one more shot for the rest of the game, but his impact should be considerable for a team lacking bench scoring. Related to the Warriors, Draymond Green left late in the fourth quarter of last night's game with a knee injury. He is expected to get an MRI today, but it is not expected to be serious given he wasn't limping, he wasn't wearing a brace, and he directly told TNT's David Aldridge, quote, "I'll be fine." Moving on to the Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown has really arrived. Last season, Brown had a typical dismal rookie stat line that we see with a lot of guys when they come into the league, but he appears to have turned a corner with his play last night. Brown posted an impressive 25 points and 6 rebounds to go along with 3 steals. It's only one game, but he's going to get a lot of playing time with Hayward sidelined right now, and you can clearly see this is not the same Jaylen Brown as we saw last season. Moving on to the Bulls, Bobby Portis and Nikola Mirotic got into a nasty physical altercation during practice on Tuesday. Mirotic ended up with a fractured bone in his face and a concussion, and he is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. This morning, the Bulls just announced an 8-game suspension for Bobby Portis as a result. Portis and Mirotic were competing for a starting spot on a Bulls team that's currently seen as one of the worst in the league. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. And until next time, this is Mattoon from America's Got Balls, signing out.